Hello, and welcome to this evening's Hip Historian Virtual Happy Hour Tour. I am Brenda Holt with AARP Arizona. During the month of March, we will focus on providing resources to help consumers manage their debt and savings and provide trusted information to make the best financial decisions. AARP is your wise friend and a fierce defender of consumers' finances, and we are helping you manage money while fighting on your behalf to protect what you've earned. We are here for you, and we will help you navigate the challenging road ahead. Visit us at aarp.org/money or aarp.org/moneymap. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence of over 38 million members and 900,000 right here in Arizona, AARP works to strengthen communities, and we advocate for what matters most to families, such as health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. We're glad you can join us this evening. I'll now turn things over to Marshall Shore.
Ladies and gentlemen, non-binary folk, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Everyone, I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. And oh my gosh, we've got such a fun night in store for you. Oh, I am so happy to welcome you all as we start to celebrate our 2-year anniversary. We've been doing this Arizona History Happy Hour every week. So we have over 100 episodes done, which is pretty amazing. All talking about the quirky side and some fun sides of so much of Arizona history. So I want to welcome you all to an amazing location. So, props. So, I want to give a huge shout out to Hazel and Violet Letterpress because that's where we are. That's where we're coming to you all live tonight. Now, if you're wondering, where is that? It's actually over on Grand and 13th Avenue. It's in Bragg's Pie Factory, which is a pretty amazing building. I mean, initially when it opened up in the mid-40s, it was all about pies. In fact, there's a little triangular piece in the very front that looks almost like a piece of pie, and that's where they used to sell pie from to the public. Now, since then, it actually houses a wide variety of artists, hair salon. You've got Puppet Pie, Hazel Violet. You've got Bacchanata, which is, they were just announced as being up for a James Beard Award. So all kinds of fun things are happening over here on Grand Avenue. It's also a great place to come on First Friday because, over here at Hazel Violet, it's like you can print something every First Friday. And it's so much fun because it's something that you get to create and you get to take home. So without any further ado, let's the celebrations commence. So my name is Marshall Shore. I want to welcome you all as we get a chance to talk about some really cool Arizona history. So now today is not only our 2-year anniversary, it is also March 24th. Well, some kind of officially no, but a lot of the gallery folks have just said, we're going to do it by gosh. So a lot of the galleries are open on First Friday, but not officially open through ArtLink. So, so today being March 24th, so back in 2001, I thought I would give a shout out to spring training, which is going on right now all over the place. So back on March 24th of 2001, Randy Johnson kills a dove when he throws a fastball, and the bird just happens to not see the ball and fly right in the path of that ball. Now, The ball didn't, well, actually, the ball survived. The dove did not. Now, it is also World Tuberculosis Day, and it's celebrated every year because this date, back in 1882, is when they announced the discovery of the bacillus, which causes tuberculosis. I know, I can't imagine how you would, I would feel horrible having done that. So, sometimes things happen. Now, it's also not only World TB Day, but it is also National Cocktail Day. And the beauty of National Cocktail Day is, cocktails started creeping up around 1860s. But really it was cocktails during Prohibition that became huge in the US as people were trying to cover up the taste of the really bad, cheap booze that they could make. So they found all kinds of ways to make it taste better. Now, it is also National Cheesesteak Day. So all day long in Philly, there have been all kinds of competitions. It's kind of like March Madness for food. All those restaurants who say, hey, we discovered this, we created, they're all battling out to see who's going to be named number one. Now, there is a slight rumor around that Pat Oliveri at Pat's King of Steaks is the original location of where they were created. He was a hot dog vendor, and he came up with the idea. Now, some of those other folks might debate that, but you should go out and enjoy a Philly cheesesteak or a cocktail. All right, so what can you expect tonight? Well, it's going to be a little interesting tonight because, so we always do a little Arizona small town. We'll do our trivia. We'll do From the Vault, which is kind of art or something interesting in plain sight, a bit of history that you might not know is there. We also do a little bit of music as well as a beverage to celebrate the fact that we're in Bragg's Pie Factory, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Now, normally we would have a single special guest on, but I went through and we could have gone on for hours. There are so many good episodes, and you can find them on YouTube. If you just Google or YouTube and you search for Arizona History Happy Hour, you'll find a laundry list of all those episodes that we've done. And it's, I was like, it was like trying to figure out who should I put in, who should I not. Now, if this is your first time watching, this is a special night because indeed it is our 2-year anniversary. And so my name is Marshall Shore. I'm also known as the Hip Historian. Now, you might wonder, how did I get to Arizona? Well, about a little over 22 years ago, I was in Brooklyn at a beautiful Carnegie building and decided it was time for a change. So, hello, Arizona. I started working in South Phoenix at a little library down there that had this rich oral tradition of the community, how it evolved. And that's one of the things that got me going on what I'm doing right now. Now, when we got here, we promptly moved into a 1956 ranch. Now, friends call it a time capsule because there's what my kitchen looks like today. All that buttercream yellow tile matching appliances. And we try to keep the house in the same time period as well. Now, when we first got here, all we kept hearing about how there was no history here. But, I quickly realized that was not true because every time I would go somewhere, whether it was on foot, on a bike, in a car, or even just chatting with friends, I kept finding these amazing stories about all these people, places, and things that truly make Arizona unique. Such as Bragg's Pie Factory along Grand Avenue, which has its own history. So, I always think that the post-war boom, all those GIs that either were stationed here, trained here, or passed on their way to somewhere else, well, after the war, they were moving here in huge numbers and changing forever how Arizona would relate to people, land, good, bad, indifferent. But I think people started traveling around and started looking at the state in a completely different way than they had before. Now, I did tell you my name is Marshall, and I'm known as a hip historian. You might wonder, I think all of them, yes, actually they are. I think there was one that I found this morning that wasn't on there. So yeah, so all episodes are on YouTube. Oh, thank you, Nikki. And I'm sorry you didn't make the, I'm like, I wanted to put everybody on, but I was like, oh. So, so as the hip historian, that means I get to play a lot with Arizona history. And there's so much fun stuff coming up, as well as some surprises. So, we do our monthly haunted history walking tour of downtown Phoenix. That is coming up on April 9th. We have actually the next day after that, I am starting to work on an LGBT book of Phoenix history. And so we're holding a scanning event where people can bring photos, tell stories. So that should be a lot of fun. Now, also coming up the end of next month is Arizona Tuberculosis, where it is basically 4 days of celebration of Polynesian culture. And we're doing a walking tour of the neighborhood just south of the Valley Ho. Some people call it Little Palm Springs. It's all these apartments that are so late 50s. Like you've got one that has like a shade structure that has 2 holes that used to have palm trees going through it. So it's things like that. Also, I hear a rumor that Ignite is happening. I think that's going to be early April. In case you don't know what Ignite is, it's a really cool event. And so what they do is there's all these presenters that have submitted. And what they do is you have X number of slides that fire automatically. So you tell your story and your slides just go. You're not controlling them like I tend to do. Sometimes you can go forwards, you can go backwards. Well, here you can only go forwards. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to get a lot of ideas in a small space. And it's always a great crowd. And this one is going to be over at Scottsdale Center for Performing Arts. So that will be a lot of fun. And I think I want to say April 4th. It's the day before happy hour. So I will be quite happy, I'm sure, when all of that is, because it's so much fun to do and to go and to see people. All right. So speaking of Scottsdale Center for the Arts, oh my gosh, coming up in just a couple days, like next week, is the Outrageous Gala. And we are going to have so much fun. I've been so happy to be able to have a chance to work with the team that's putting this together, that we've been having so much fun. It's going to be an amazing event, unlike anything anyone's ever seen. I know there still are a few tickets left. Also, this weekend, we are coming to a close of our detour. So get out there and see some art. There's all kinds of things happening. And I see so many of you have already found the chat session. So great to see so many of you. Now, if you don't get a chance to chat, or if there's things you would like to say, you got an idea for, maybe you got a great guest. Oh my gosh, well, you can submit it that way and we are good to go. And you can do that through Facebook, email, website, Instagram. It's all good. So, okay, now it would not be happy hour without PJ and his amazing work. So pretty much from day one, he has been creating a cocktail every week. And so this one, I don't know if y'all can see that, but cheers to 2 years. And so I'm going to give it a little shake. And so basically, our cocktail is an homage to the fact that we are in Bragg's Pie Factory. So it is a key lime martini. And so it's got all kinds of good stuff in it. Let's take a better look at that. So, you've got a little bit of Grand Canyon Orange Blossom vodka. Now, I need to find out how you pronounce Chelly Limoncello, because it's limoncello, I know how to pronounce, but Chelly could also be Shea, like Canyon de Shea. So I'm not quite sure how they want their name pronounced. Then there's a little bit of Shamrock, half and half, a little holdover from St. Patrick's Day not long ago. Then there's some key lime juice, a little bit of pineapple juice. We have some golden pineapple kombucha, and I've never even heard of, Mayan jackfruit liqueur. Oh, and that's nice and smooth, a little on the tart side, which is really nice. PJ, another great cocktail. Thank you so much. So now we're going to talk about Little Arizona. So it's a town, actually, today it's a place in Arizona. So I was recently talking about Casablanca, which is a fabled resort that now is condos and housing over in Scottsdale. But, whenever we're researching Casablanca, other Casablancas pop up. So you have the Heard Estate, which is where the museum is. That was called Casablanca. There is a town that we talked about last week that is called Casablanca down in Pinell on the Gila Reservation. But we are going to talk about Casablanca, Arizona, which is up in Apache County. And so, as you can see, it is cliff-dwelling ruins. Now, although people have lived in Canyon de Chelly for more than 5,000 years, its ancestral Puebloans who built the White House around 1060 AD, and like so many of us, they needed more space, so they kept adding on rooms. And over the next 200 years, it's estimated that there have been up to 80 rooms, 4 kivas that were there, and it was quite heavily used. So it's still such a sight that you can see up in Canyon de Chelly, up on the reservation up there. So now we're going to have some fun. So the special guest is all kinds of folks. So we do our trivia. And so what we're going to do is we'll go through the questions and answers. We'll take a little bit of a music history break. That this time is actually an old trivia question that from my friend Clotey, talking about an Arizona blues legend. So, you can keep track of your chats. You can keep track of your score in the chat session or wherever you would like. So our first question for tonight is, during the restoration of the Rosen House, a trap door was discovered in the pantry. What was hidden within it? Was it A, a newspaper, B, war rations, C, whiskey bottles, or D, a child's toy? What do you think they found in a trap door hidden inside the pantry of the Rosen House? All right, question 2. What famous trombone player attended Phoenix Indian School? Was it A, Ira Hayes, B, R. Carlos Nakai, C, Russell Moore, or D, Buffy St. Marie? So who of those do you think was a famous trombone player that attended Phoenix Indian School? All right. What year did Metro Center... Oh, and I didn't... Oh. All right. What year did Metro Center open? I'm trying to think what the answer is. Well, I know the answer. All right. So I'm just going to throw it out there. So do you think it was 1969? Do you think it was 1970? Do you think it was 1973? Or was it 1975? All right. So when do you think Metro Center opened? Question 4. When did the Corona family lease the Orpheum Theater, and for how long? So is it A, 1968 to 1975, B, 1969 to 1980, C, 1970 to 1987, or D, 1985 to 1992? All right. So how long do you think the Corona family, when did they lease it, and for how long? All right. Question 5. Phoenix College has always had a bear as a mascot. In fact, actually, when they first started off, it was a live bear. But in the 50s, PC's night division adopted a different animal as their mascot. And what was it? Was it A, a desert elf owl, B, a Gila monster, C, a rattlesnake, or D, a scorpion? So what animal do you think the students chose to be kind of the mascot of those night classes in the 50s? All right, question 6. An island of Western hospitality in Arizona. What Phoenix hotel could you find the Taboo Room cocktail lounge and South Pacific Lagoon swimming pool? Do you think it was A, the Valley Ho, B, the Westward Ho, C, the Contiki, or D, Valley High? Which one of those places do you think gave folks the opportunity to go to the Taboo Room? I wish I can go to the Taboo Room right now with a little sip of a key lime pie martini. All right, question 7. Who was the architect who renovated the Hayden House? Previously, it was called Monte's La Casa Vieja back in the 20s. Was it A, Ralph Haver, B, Robert T. Evans, C, Mary Coulter, or D, Edward Varney? All right, so which one of those architects do you think helped renovate what is now called the Hayden House? Question 8. Which article of clothing was mentioned in the title of one of Morrison Institute's most remembered reports that was published back in 2001? Was it A, gloves, B, pants, C, shoes, or D, socks? All right, so what do you think Morrison Institute's one of their most iconic publications? What article of clothing was it kind of used as a symbol? All right. Question 9. What's the name of the public art piece at the Arizona Falls in Herberger Park? Is it A, Three Fountains, B, H2O, C, Desert Wells, or D, Waterworks? All right, so while you're trying to figure out what that art piece at the amazing Arizona Falls is called, we have question 10. Jackie Fontaine is still recouping from losing his life savings in which 1980s financial institution, and who was it run by? So was it A, Gold Canyon Bank, run by Lou King, B, Valley National Bank and Walter Bimson, C, Lincoln Savings and Loan, Charles Keating, or D, Copper Star Bank and Rex Allen? Now, normally this would be the end, but we have a bonus question, and oh my gosh, there are so many amazing people. I wish we could go on and on. All right, so question 11, or our bonus round. Who was Philip Curtis and where did he live? Was he A, musician who lived in Phoenix Towers? Was he a politician and hung out at the Adams Hotel? Was he C, an artist and lived at Cattle Track? Or was he an architect and lived at the Jokaki Inn? All right. So while you are coming up with your final answers there, we're going to take a brief Arizona music break. And actually, we get to hear some music on this one, which is kind of why I included it, because who doesn't love to hear music? So let's hear from Miss Cloty as she gets a chance to talk about a blues legend.
And so what is the style of Big Pete's signature hat? What do you call those hats Big Pete Pearson, Arizona's King of the Blues, wears? And this CD jacket, that's some of my artwork. It's a photo collage, but I went all around looking for cotton fields that did not have industrial buildings in the shot. So I went out to 98th Avenue and Camelback and took a picture of that cotton field. And that was in 2018. And the guitar that you see is Scotty Spinner's guitar. And he and Big Pete have been making music together for over 30 years. There is truly a reason why he's considered Arizona's king of the blues.
Indeed. So now we have a little video. Is now the time to play that, or do you want to hold off?
I'm going to refill my glass. Let's do that.
I think that's a great idea. All right. So here we get to see Scotty as well. So.
Yeah.
I was in love with you, babe. Honey, before I learned to call your name. I was in love with you, baby. Honey, before I learned to call your name. Hey, I wanna love you, pretty baby. Girl, it's about to drive me insane. Well, I'm trying your love. Your love for me was true. Well, I'm trying your love, girl. Your love for me was true. Hey, I want you to love me, pretty baby. Love me just like you used to do. Talk to me, son. Well. Yeah. All right. Well. Yeah. Say it. Say it, son. I want you to love with me, baby. Do everything I say. I want you to love me, pretty baby. Do everything I say. I want you to love me, pretty mama. Fall down on your knees and pray. I was in love with you. 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 Hey, I'm gonna love you, pretty baby. Do everything I say. I was in love with you, baby. Honey, before I learned to call your name. Yes, I was. Hey, I was in love with you, woman. Baby, before I learned to call your name. Oh, I'm gonna love you, pretty baby. Baby, I'm driving me insane. I want you to be my girlfriend. Hey, you know I'm gonna be your boy. Yes, I am. I want you to be my girlfriend. Girl, you know I'm gonna be your boy. Hey, I'm gonna buy me a Cadillac car. Yes, I will. Drive out wherever you are. I was in love with you, baby, honey, before I learned to call your name. Yes, I was. I was in love with you, baby, honey, before I learned to call your name. Hey, I wanna love you, pretty baby, and it's about to drive me insane. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, Scotty.
Well, and and that also gave people a chance to see Big Pete wearing a hat.
Yeah.
So there was actually there was some debate in terms of what would you call it.
And
Everything from a Stetson to a
no.
Stromberg.
No and no. All right. I will accept a fedora or a Hamburg.
All right. So now who's ready for some answers? Because, oh my gosh, just wait till you see the fun we're going to have with some of these amazing folks. Question number 1. During the restoration, in the trap door was in the pantry was whiskey bottles.
That's right. So the thinking is that, so the third resident of the house, the fourth resident were the Gammels. And Mr. Gammel was a saloon owner. And they bought the nice, big, beautiful Rawson house with all of their wealth. He was a saloon owner. He was a business owner, and a few months after purchasing the house, Arizona went dry. They started their own prohibition. We do know that they did not stop selling alcohol, and because they actually got caught. And so we think that they probably actually created this hidden hole, this spot in the pantry of the kitchen to hide their contraband. So
very cool. I didn't realize there was a little bit of prohibition history at the Rawson House. How cool is that? Even more appropriate for Jen and Jazz to be there.
Exactly. And I think that this picture is actually, I don't know if they were exactly the bottles that were found in the pantry. They may have been. I'm pretty sure this might be actually them, what was found there.
Okay, cool. Question 2, what famous... Now, I do want to add, that was the very first question that we asked, and you can see the look of the show has greatly improved. So at least people can actually read the questions, which is awfully important even for the host to be able to read the question. So... And the Rawson House still does Jen and Jazz as a fundraiser. So it's a lot of fun and something great to do on National Cocktail Day. Cheers. Player attended Phoenix Indian School.
And that would be Russell Moore. Russell Moore, again, is with the Gila River Indian community. And actually, when he came to school here at Phoenix Indian, he played the trumpet. And then when he moved over to our rival school, which maybe I won't name, is when he picked up. It is a rival school. No, he went to Sherman, which is in California, and he picked up the trombone. What's interesting, if you go back to the picture of Russell Moore, you'll see him and he's playing that trombone out the side of his mouth.
Right.
And that's not a typical way to play a trombone. But what happened is he had an injury and that prevented him from playing that trombone the correct way. So he became very innovative and learned how to play the trombone out of the side of his mouth. And he became very good. He played with the likes of Louis Armstrong and traveled across the world playing that trombone.
Well, so was music a big part of kind of life on at the Indian school?
Oh my goodness, yes, music was a huge part. So even in the 1900s, early 1900s, when the school first started, there was the band. And originally that band was a brass band and only the boys played in the band. And then later on it became, a whole band, and then, girls were able to play also.
Oh,
but
wow.
One interesting thing about the band is that it was actually used as a recruitment tool. So the band would play on all these different reservations, and there was an official from PI that would come up and say, "Do you like what you heard? If you did, send your children to PI because they can be part of this."
Oh my. Wow.
So yes, the band was a huge, huge part. In fact, the band from PI was the band that was asked to play at the statehood celebrations when Arizona became a state.
Oh, wow. So they were really good.
They were very good. When Arizona was still a territory, there were territorial bands here in the area, and Phoenix Indian would play against those other bands and win quite often. So they were very good. On Sunday afternoons, there was a little arbor set up on part of the school grounds, and the band would come together and they would play, and all the people of Phoenix would come and listen to how well the Indians were doing. And so that was always a Sunday concert basically that was put on.
Wow.
Yes, the band has.
All right. So Rosalie actually, she works at the Phoenix Indian School Visitor Center, where there's a great little museum that talks about the history of PI, or the Phoenix Indian School. And they have reopened. You can check out their website through Parks and Recreation to see kind of what their hours are. If you haven't been, it's well worth going because there's so many good stories there.
Here.
Okay, so what year did Metro Center open for business?
1973.
Yeah.
I wasn't even born yet.
Oh, yeah, it was. They actually opened October 1st of 73.
Wow, Metro opens its doors tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's like when it opened its doors, it was being heralded as like one of the largest malls in the country.
Really?
It was quite the to-do.
I think I read somewhere that it was also the only two-story one.
Ah,
like in the state or something like that. It was a big deal that it was 2 stories, at that time as well. So
yeah, the mall I grew up with back in Indiana, it was only 1 story. So I remember going to a mall that was 2 stories, or one that had an ice rink and was just like, oh, they have an ice rink. How decadent.
See, and Metro Center was really all I knew. So I was spoiled then, because I was like, I knew Christown, but Metro Center was my jam. I live right by it. So to me, it was like malls were just 2 stories. Christown was like junk, with its 1 story.
Well, I'm excited to see what's going to happen with Christown because it's going to become kind of a village. They are redeveloping the 80 acres of Metro Center to be housing, so it'll be having built-in parks and all kinds of things. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see how that develops. All right. So when did the Corona family lease the theater And for how long? So it was C from 1970 to 1987. So wow, almost 20 years. That's an awfully long time.
See, I had to put my glasses on. I'm that good-looking kid in the bottom left.
Ah.
Wow. And so for some of your guests that are following through, I'll go ahead and name off my brothers and sisters, because I'm sure they're watching and they'll like this. So the person next to me, above me, would be my sister Esperanza, Espy, and then above her is my mother, Soledad. Above her is my sister Maria. She is second oldest, and then we have an aunt of mine that's in there. But then the gentleman standing up is my brother Juan, the oldest. The one next to him is my brother Hector, and beneath him is my sister B. Next to her is my brother Armando, and then my sister Teresa, and my father there in the middle. But wow, that's how I remember the theater looking with that the, I don't know what you want to call it, the facade, the marquee.
Right, the marquee out front, and the sign hanging down, which sadly is no longer there.
Right, because apparently it that wasn't original to the building. So now the way it's restored. But that's how I remember the theater looking.
So was this the only theater that you guys had?
No, through the years, it's funny that in the Latin community, it's very common that if you're a movie star, you're probably a singer, and if you're a singer, you're a movie star. So that my people would come to the theater to see their favorite singer on the screen. And my father had a great idea of starting a record shop. So you come out of the theater, you buy a record, and go home and listen to it. So with that, we thought, well, there's a couple other movie theaters became available around the valley. One was 35th Avenue and Indian School called the Hayden Plaza West. So we acquired that movie theater and showed Spanish films, Mexican record shop there as well. And then in Chandler, there was a movie theater downtown, which just recently closed. It was a restaurant, turned into a restaurant called El Zócalo. But that was originally a movie theater, and that was one of our theaters as well. And then a record shop there as well. So a lot of kids, a lot of businesses to run.
And lots of free labor.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Ryan, you are right that Bill and His Excellent Adventure, a lot of it was filmed at the mall. Now, one of the things, so just as the mall was closing down, I was part of a group that tried to do a film showing of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in front of, well, actually in the mall. So I'm hoping that maybe we can do that again, or at least on property. So we shall see. So that was a lot of fun. And, and when Alex, it's like, I adore his whole family. It's like, they run Corona Ranch and doing some great things. So I love talking to them. So, all right. So on to the next question. All right. Phoenix College has always had a bear as its mascot, but in the 1950s, Phoenix College Night Division adopted a different animal, and it was a desert elf owl.
Much better than an Apache trout.
Yes, it doesn't smell quite as bad in class. And I think it was even called Will Be Wise.
Ah.
So, but the fact that I think because it was night school, because owls are so known to have, they can see in the dark really well.
They're night owls.
Indeed, just like all those night school students. As well as they're also that symbol of being smart. So, Marty, did you ever go to night class?
I did one semester.
An island of Western hospitality in Arizona. What Phoenix hotel could you find the Taboo Cocktail Lounge and South Pacific Lagoon swimming pool?
This was the Bali High. Restaurant Bali High. and
I
what's
know.
interesting is Bali High, and this was another bit of a trick question because the Bali High opened just 2 months after the Western Village, and they were right next door to each other, and they were.
And who? So, oh my God. So, you've got Marty Manning talking about the 100th anniversary of Phoenix College, which I think is pretty iconic. I mean, they did this great kind of coffee table book full of so many great photos of Phoenix College over the years that it was really great. And so then we also heard from Mike Skinner, who was really, that episode was all about tiki in Arizona. And so I was recently out in Scottsdale at the library out there. And so I found a scanned image of Trader Vic's. So what was unique about the Trader Vic's out in Scottsdale was the only one that had a Southwestern motif. So on the side of the building, there were all these little works of art that showed like a tiki god riding on a horse with a lasso in hand. And so they had a digitized image there, and I'm trying to get back to the original source because I bet it's probably a really good photo. And I'm hoping that maybe we can lift some of those iconic tiki images off of that were so indicative of really just kind of tiki meets Southwest. Because what could be cooler? Renovated Hayden House back in the 1920s. And it was Robert T. Evans.
That's right. He was, so the house was originally built by Charles Hayden, who is the founder of Tempe. He is the proprietor of Hayden's Flour Mill that we know that sits on Mill Avenue. He really is the pioneer that began Tempe. And I think he picked that spot because it was in the confluence of the river and there was the butte. And it was a place he went up that butte and he saw out into the river and he's like, oh, I could put my flour mill here. And so that was a, auspicious occasion. And he ended up founding Tempe. There were already Mexican settlers there, but, he bought rights to the water and he settled it and other white settlers came and things like that. So, and he built that house there, which really later became Monty's La Casa Vieja steakhouse.
Right.
But if you think about how cool it is that that building still stands today, it is one of the original buildings of Arizona, like the settlement of Arizona. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And that people could go there. It was a public building for so long, being a restaurant and everything. So I was lucky enough to work on this building to make it.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize I actually got to work on that. Oh, very cool.
It was super cool, Marshall. I worked on it when I was working with Motley Design Group, and we were able to take it from when it was Monty's. Monty had done a lot of changes to it that weren't necessarily accurate to the history. And he made it into a restaurant. Nothing wrong with it. He did what he had to do to make it a restaurant. So we peeled back a lot of those layers that Monty had put on to make it go back to Robert T. Evans's 1929 version of the building. So Robert T. Evans came in there in 1929 after Charles Hayden had passed away, and it was owned by his two daughters, and they were going to make it into an inn. And so he came and he renovated the building to make it sort of into a restaurant and an inn. And that's the era that we tried to restore the building to. And today it is offices. It's not open to the public, unfortunately, but in the future they're trying to plan to make it a museum when they have enough funding.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but it's owned by the city. It's completely protected.
Oh, I didn't realize the city now owned it. Oh, that's actually really cool.
It's really cool, and it's like safe.
Yeah.
Nothing can happen to it. Isn't that nice?
That's amazing.
Yep. So it's good news for that building.
Yeah, and Robert T. Evans his kind of main thing was Adobe.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. He was an architect. He was a master architect with Adobe. It was really a big yeah, and he did the what are they called?
The Jokaki Inn.
The middle picture you have, what is that called?
The Jokaki Inn.
The Jokaki Inn, yeah, he did that building. And he was like a master Adobe person. And you know, the Hayden House was originally built in Adobe.
Right.
And so Robert T. Evans came in and, you know, renovated it with Adobe. And today, you know, when we were renovating the building, we got like a master Adobe builder. His name is Reggie, and he because there's not a lot of experts in Adobe these days. You know what I'm saying?
I would believe that.
It's an older, historic. It's a wonderful material. I don't know why we don't use it more, but it's very, you know, it's of the desert. It's made out of dirt, of our own dirt of the desert. So it's a wonderful, like, indigenous, sustainable, durable material. So, but we don't use it very much anymore.
Right. And also the walls are so thick that's a really good insulator as well.
It is. It's such a great desert material. It's used all over the world. It's just called different things. Like it's used by the Arabs in the deserts of the Middle East. It's used here in the deserts of the Southwest. It's used pretty much in every desert where you can find it. You know, they make sun-dried bricks, which I think is like our next question.
I know it's coming up, but he also did one of my favorite buildings, which is the Eisendrath House, which is out in Tempe. And so again, it was basically Swaro Foundation redid the building. And I don't know, I mean, I know it's like now with COVID, I think it's shut, but hopefully soon to be open for tours again. And again, it's a 1930s Adobe mansion that has its own fascinating story with just Robert T. Evans kind of story overlaid onto it as well. So
yeah, he was another master architect that is maybe not as well known because he's not from the mid-century modern era. He's from before, like the 30s and 40s. So I mean, I to be honest, I didn't know about him until I started working on the Hayden House, and then I found out about how prominent he is, and he's done a lot of our most important buildings in the city. So yeah, he's very important to our state.
And you know, and I also could have thrown in Casablanca because he built the original Kellogg Hacienda that then became Casablanca, that fabled resort out in Paradise Valley. Question 8. Which article of clothing was mentioned in the title of one of Morse Institute's most remembered reports that was published back in 2001? And it was shoes.
Multiple props here. So I keep copies. I have a whole stack of them of this report on my desk because it is a source of inspiration to me. When I am out in the community, it is amazing all these years later how many people mention 5 shoes waiting to drop. And I think what resonated so much was this report was identifying sort of trends, things that were not yet on everybody's radar, whether that was around the importance of Latino education in the state or how we weren't retaining young talent or sort of a lack of leadership. They talked about sort of challenges with our tax structure, and it just captivated people's interest. It got sustained attention. As Richard said, Betsy and others from our board and our leadership team went all around the state talking about it. And I think it really speaks to how we can be effective in sort of really focusing in people's attention to hopefully move the needle on issues that impact everyone. And so when I came into the director role, you know, sometimes you inherit things that get passed down that are like office lore or old relics. And so one of the stranger objects that was sort of gifted to me with the office is this very unique 5 shoes mobile that you can see has both the report cover and our beloved past director, Rob Melnick's face attached to it. He'll probably cringe if he sees me holding this thing up. But the doll shoes can give off a little bit of a creepy vibe. But I think it must speak to something about that moment was So important to the staff that somebody took the time to create this thing.
So what were the 5 shoes?
So I have my list here. So I mentioned some of them. One was around talent, one was around leadership, Latino education, the state having what they called a fuzzy economic identity, and lost stewardship and an antiquated tax system.
So, I think one thing that basically report came out just as I got to Arizona. And for me, it was a litmus test because I love the fact that now when people graduate, their first thing is not to flee, but a lot of folks who are graduating college are sticking around. What is the name of the public art piece at Arizona Falls in Herberger Park?
Waterworks.
Waterworks. And it's so fantastic. Day or night, it's a pleasure to go hang out there and just see. And I've seen people taking wedding photos here, all kinds of things. So it's really spectacular.
Yeah, this was one of the first projects that I worked on with the City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation and the City Arts Commission. What happened was that in 2003, I was working with Architectural Alliance, the company that I just told you. They supported my process to become an American citizen and give me the visa and all that stuff. So we got this commission of doing the construction administration for this particular project. So I got to work side by side with Lau Scherer and Max Harris, 2 great artists of contemporary art around the world. And then they basically were hired to create Arizona Falls. Basically, the concept behind that exchange of elevation that creates that fall. So they created these troughs around that just basically spill water, like cascades, and the structure with the little swoop in the top, and a bridge that connects to Arcadia. So not many people know that that's one of the biggest elevation changes through the canal. And by the way, the canal is we have to celebrate water in Arizona and our canals, because that's the way we supply water to the entire valley. And the Aborigines from Arizona were able to create these canals for irrigation, which is what nowadays we live around these canals.
Right.
So this piece of art was built in that change of elevation. And one quick thing, during summertime, the platform that was the top of it, it was concrete because it was a turbine inside to create electricity. Every time you have change of elevation and water falling, you have the opportunity to create electricity. So there's a turbine that supplies still up to today power to the entire area.
I never knew it was functional. I just thought it was decorative.
So that you see, there's a tower, and the tower has just like a little see-through panels. So that moves as the turbine moves. So the power is being generated, and that exchange of elevation and water spilling create that moisture. So when it's summertime, that is cooler than the rest of the area. So people around the district and around the area used to host dance parties at really late at night, and that top concrete is called the dance floor. So I have much information. Alberto Rios wrote a poem, and the poem is written on top of that surface, that concrete surface. It's a beautiful piece of art. If you have an opportunity anytime, stop at the Herberger Park and read about Arizona Falls.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also historic because because of that elevation change, it was this place where we would go hang out to picnic just because it was
fishing
thing. There was that water, and so it was always cooler than around the area. So it's been a historical place just to go hang out and be chill. And now you can do that today and make electricity.
Yep.
And have a late night dance party. It's so wonderful to refresh from some of these. I'm like, I think I'm going to ask Oscar it's like, maybe we should have a cocktail late night and have a little dance party up on Waterworks. So, Jackie, you lost your life savings in the 80s with Charles Keating
Yeah.
and that whole Lincoln Savings and Loan debacle that took the country by storm.
It sure did. Yeah. You know, I had to trade in the Cadillac I had because of that bozo. Now, a lot of people say, hey, he was just like anybody else. He just got caught. Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, look at Bernie Madoff. Okay. You know, he's like everybody else. He got caught too, you know. It's still happening to your money right now with these bozos in Washington and New York and wherever else, you know. That's why I say invest with the Jackie Fontaine Investment Company. You'll never go wrong. Look me up online and you'll see my portfolio.
And probably more than I'd like to as well.
That's right. No, hey, that doesn't sound funny. There's a lot of people lost a lot of money, and I'm sorry for that. But I lost money too, you know. And but yeah, that was just, you know, something. There was a lot of people hiding out here in Arizona, you know, back in the 70s. It was a kind of a place like an umbrella for both the mob, you know, and for shysters. And it was just a shame because there's a lot of people that retire here in Arizona. We've got to watch out for our senior citizens. Thank God I'm years away from being a senior citizen.
Oh, you know, I just ran into Greg, who is the manager for Jackie Fontaine. So I think Jackie's up to some interesting stuff. So we'll keep a tab on him and see what's coming out in the future. Who was Philip Curtis?
So Phil,
I mean, this was very simplified. I mean, it was like I didn't want to get into too much with just the answer because it could, again, this could be an entire day-long conversation on who was Philip Curtis.
I think Phil is the great Arizona artist. He came here in the WPA period, and he helped start the Phoenix Art Museum. He helped found it. And he decided to live here the rest of his life. He was born in Michigan. And his work, he painted every day of his 90 years. And he was entranced by the desert and the light. And so he really helped take the imagery of Arizona into sort of the surreal landscape and truly finest artist that the state has ever housed or been home to. And he, well, I know it's one of your questions, where he lived, but you know, Cattle Track was the home of a number of artists. Janie Ellis and the Ellis family developed Cattle Track, and other artists like Fritz Scholder all lived and died at Cattle Track and were taken care of and nurtured for their work all their lives.
Indeed. And so, well, you've already given away the answer for...
Yes, sorry.
Nope, no worries at all. So where did Philip Curtis live? And Alex already gave it away as well, because he was a neighbor to Philip Curtis over on Cattle Track.
Ah. What a great, fortunate place to live.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine hanging out there. And I mean, and it's still going strong today. I mean, lots of folks still there. And they're still doing events. I just saw, I had a friend who was doing kind of family-friendly vaudeville there just a few days ago. And I was like, dang, I wish I would have known. I would have gone to go see him.
Janie Ellis is one of the great impresarios of our time.
Oh my God. And I talk about a force to be reckoned with. That would be Janie as well.
Yes, absolutely.
She's
brilliant.
She is. And I mean, and constantly doing things, even with all those dogs.
Yes, even with all those.
So, oh my gosh. I mean, it was so much fun going through and running into all these friends again and getting a refresher in some of the history, some of the things I had forgotten. And I'm like, oh, I need to call on that. And so I hope you enjoyed this walk down memory lane as much as I did. Now, I already see some folks are already paying attention and know what the next question is going to be, which is, how did you do? And so, it's not necessarily that, Anita, that you weren't paying attention. Other things happen, but that's why it was so much fun going through. And, I look forward to doing another clip show because it's so much fun going through and rehashing some of these. So many folks I wish I could have included. I mean, with over 100 episodes now in the can, it's like there's so much cool stuff. And, we've got such an amazing history here. So I look forward to running on. And oh, Sarah, no worries. I mean, it's just so much fun to see some of these people because I haven't seen them. Now, I do get to see Oscar because he is co-chairing the Outrageous Gallery over in Scottsdale. So I actually just saw him yesterday. But most people I haven't seen in a while. So I need to catch up and go hang out with some of them. So now we're getting ready to do From the Vault, which is something that's kind of in plain sight, but you might not know about it. Now, you'll see I always ask people to share on Facebook because there is so much so many folks say, Arizona history is not fun. Well, I completely disagree. I mean, I like to think that we've made over 100 episodes that make Arizona history fun. And so I hope that you agree. And so it keeps evolving. I mean, as you can see from that question number 1, where you couldn't even read the question, and I didn't even get Kari online so you could see her talking about the bottles. So we've all progressed. I mean, I've come a long way. So it's so great to see that. So please remember to share on Facebook. And remember, this is a weekly event. And so since we're on Grand Avenue, we're going to talk a little bit about a fire that happened last year that was on a building basically just off 7th Avenue and Grand. And so it has quite a history. Originally, it started off as a Quovedo Chevrolet back in 54, designed by Victor Gruen with Haver. And so it was a showplace that really talks about how Grand Avenue was part of that major thoroughfare and was really a showplace. That's why you had things like the Bali High along here. It was motels, hotels, resorts, as well as you could have bought a brand new car in a glass encased box. Soon after that, not soon after that, but then it became Paper Heart and was the epicenter of so much of the art scene here, I think probably in the 90s and 2000s. So I know several folks have tried to revive it. And sadly, there was the fire last year. So who knows what will become of the Paper Heart or that Quovedo Chevrolet, which is such an iconic structure along Grand Avenue. So now join us next week when we are going to be talking about with Tiffany Farrell, who is the director of the Mesa Contemporary Art Museum. And they do some really fun stuff. So that's going to be a great show next week. So be sure and join us because we'll be having lots of fun with Tiffany. Now, remember, you can always throw a note off to me either in the chat or various other ways. I love to hear from you all. And, and I specifically love this, just getting a chance to kind of rehash some things. So that's been a lot of fun. So thank you all so much for joining for our 2-year anniversary. Now, I always want to give a shout out to not just PJ. It was fun watching all the video clips of me having a nice, lovely cocktail for every episode. And that's been thanks to PJ. Also, Chris and Cole, who did that amazing video at the very beginning. I want to give them a huge shout out because, it's so cool being able to do this weekly, and I look forward to coming up with more stuff. Now, we are going to leave you with Mask of Yellow Moon, which was actually a bit that we showed for the 100th anniversary of Phoenix College, because back then it was a polytechnical college and they were heavily involved with Mask of Yellow Moon. So I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your night.
And speaking of extravaganzas, during most years between 1926 and 55, Phoenix College students joined those of the high schools in the Mask of the Yellow Moon, a music and dance pageant featuring literally a cast of 1,000. Staged at Montgomery Stadium on the Phoenix Union campus, the production often attracted national attention with themes of Americana and Arizona's history and heritage. A marvel of logistics, timing, and dramatic presentation.